Hi, I'm Pastor Mark David. Welcome to today's edition of PowerPoints as we conclude this series on peace in the home. We've been talking about the problems in society and the fact that the problems that occur in society are coming from individuals who are all products of a family of origin. A family which nurtures children who populate the nation's schools, who become the leaders and citizens of our country, who nurture the next generation of children to continue the cycle. So if we are to correct the problems in our society, then we must first correct the problems in our home. But you know, the world will not be at peace if the nations are not at peace. And the nation will not be at peace if the homes are not at peace. But the homes cannot be at peace if the hearts are not at peace. The first family, when they broke their relationship with God, they found that there was a lack of peace in their individual lives, which resulted in a lack of peace in their relationship, and which was transferred to the next generation that ended up with crime and violent crime and that, with a brother killing a brother. So we need, first of all, individually, each of us, to restore our relationship with God, to have peace with God, which can only come about through Jesus Christ, and then carry about that peace in our relationships within the home, establish peace in the home, and then it's going to be carried out into the next generation, into the community at large. We must have peace in marriage. And marriage is really a spiritual union that can be wrought by God alone. So don't leave God out of your marriage and expect to have a peaceful marriage. Marriage is much more than natural affection or infatuation. It's more than a legal paper or contract. It's much more than bearing offspring or living together under one roof. Marriage is a peaceful spiritual union. It's a mystery of mutual submission. That's what marriage is. The husband is to love his wife as himself, and the wife is to reverence, respect, esteem her husband. Marriage is a mystery of mutual love, submission, and union. And when this is understood and practiced by both parties, there would be peace in the marriage. And the peace in the marriage must also bring peace in parenting, because we are to raise up a next generation. Ephesians chapter 6 verse 1 to 4 indicates how we are to go about this. Because one of the major causes of tension in the home is the failure to heed the instruction of God's word. And God indicates that children are to obey and honor their parents in the Lord. And parents are not to provoke their children, but to nurture them in the Lord. Children, obey your parents in the Lord. That means there's a limit to the obedience. If parents are abusing their children and leading them into areas that are totally ungodly, then the child has no obligation to obey. But they must also obey their parents in the Lord, because this is what is well-pleasing in the sight of the Lord. And secondly, children, regardless of their age, must honor their parents, because this is what the Lord has commanded, and because he has given it with a promise. It's a command with a promise that things will be well with you and you will live long on the earth in which you live. But parents are not to provoke their children to wrath. And you can provoke your children to wrath by not accepting the fact that generations and times change. You can provoke your children to wrath by over-control. You can provoke your children to wrath by under-control, pampering and giving in to every woman's fancy. And you can provoke your children to wrath by living inconsistently. A parent is to bring up a child in the way of the Lord, in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord. And there are many benefits that can be derived from such a child being raised up in the Lord. A child who's brought to Christ grows up learning trust and endurance, that life is full of temptations and pitfalls which can easily rob us of joy and destroy our lives and the fulfillment of our purposes, that the way of escape to temptation and the pitfall is to follow Christ and endure in our work and purpose. A child who's brought to Christ grows up learning peace, that there is an inner peace despite the turbulent waters of this world. That peace is knowing and trusting Christ. Ephesians 6:4 says, "And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord." Colossians 3:21 says, "Fathers, provoke not your children to anger, lest they be discouraged." Deuteronomy 6:6-7 says, "And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thy heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thy house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up." Proverbs 22:6 says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." There can be no peace in the world without peace in the nation. No peace in the nation without peace in the home. No peace in the home without peace in the heart. Each of us must begin today by ensuring the peace of God reigns in our hearts through the Prince of Peace. And those of us who wish to establish peaceful marriages must recognize that marriage is not merely about meeting a partner to satisfy your selfish needs, but it is a mystery reflecting the relationship between Christ and the church through mutual love, submission, and union. And those who wish to establish peaceful homes with children must nurture them in the fear and admonition of the Lord, and children must respect and obey their parents. I'm Mark David, and this has been PowerPoints from the Open Bible.